I was talking to the furniture, I'm running out of air, I danced at parties, I'm doing great, I'm fine. I'm not an alcoholic. That was my very last denial. And I was falling, slipping bottles, I should go, I'm fine. In the best interests of the child, I ground her down with hasty lies, told them he'd left me. I'll make it work, I'm fine. Each morning a new corner shop patched me up, sent me home. It wasn't me, it really wasn't. I should go, I'm fine. The motorway below, and I'm hovering on the edge, letting go and stepping in, no feet fall where others fall. We've not been here. It feels so light. I'm hovering on the edge. Time ticked. The pull is gone. There's no life here to see. The pen feels light. It's time to write. There's no life here to see. Some days I had to pray each hour. Some days I still feel lost. But then comes hope. Just enough to keep me moving forward. I had to dig into myself and shovel the dirt. But you start to see roots and you start to feel hurt. The feelings, they were hidden deep. They're innocent enough. I found them, buried there. I learned to be tough. I pushed the past back, back, back. Some days I'd sit and cry. Clear the wreckage one more time. Ready, another try. At the end of the road, I stood, waiting for me. Back to the person I wanted to be. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Thank you so much, Kemal. It was strange going straight back into this, but yeah, I think I'm just going to kind of start by asking you a little bit about what is it exactly that connects those three pieces.
So the first piece was the material for the second, so all of the frames mostly came out of that linear piece of music. And I realised what happens when you take an impression of something in that way is you get a variation on it without it being a variation. So it can be a new image of it. And I was then on the back of that commissioned by an opera company to work in the same way but in opera form. And that sort of libretto is for this commission that's just started.
And that will be recorded and kind of glitched.
And glitched up, yeah. But there'll be both versions, so I'll have the linear version and then the flourished version.
Does anybody have any sort of feedback or questions or
How will the process differ in opera, given that you're dealing with lyrics and vocals rather than just instrumental?
Yeah, it's something that's going to be quite tricky, and we'll probably learn as we go. But I've done some tests. I'm actually also working with a mezzo soprano alongside the opera commission, and we've done some. Should I go into that? I showed you earlier. Yeah. So there was this Cambridge study done a few years ago. I'll just let you take that in. So presumably you can all read that okay?
Yeah.
The thinking is the same, whereby you'll have the linear version, but then the glitched up version of itself. I think you'll need to experience both, though you won't get the narrative from just the glitched up version.
Do you want to show the glitched
Yeah.
up for a bit, like maybe one of the...
This is coming out Halloween, so you're getting a preview. You'll see why.
You know how I didn't get it before? I've seen it a few times actually. I get it now.
It takes a while.
But I think so. We're talking about the emotional resonance of the libretto thing, and what I noticed in the violin bit, like the different ways in which the speed of it made me feel things, which was then enhanced by the music, which you normally get, like if it's not music but it's someone doing in a film. It's just frenetic movement makes you know that the music brings the freneticness of the glitching like in such an intense way. And then there were bits that happened where I'm so bad at describing things. You did there was like slow-mo stuff, and that instantly made me think of like more nostalgic things. The music did change with that, so I think it will work really nicely with the song and the words, because if you can play with matching the bits, because there were bits when you were doing it. That's the first time I'd heard it by Phoebe. Now they know. Like there was the pace that she'd kind of got from the words, and obviously it will be different when it's put to music. But I think you can play really nicely with that. I guess it would then, you've got the three layers of the words, the music, and then what the glitching does to it. There were definitely bits in that, and it was a first read. But where you have to pick, I guess, what brings the emotion of it forward. Is it the tune? Is it the music? Is it the melody? Is it the glitching? And then I think
that was going to be my next question, which was when you were doing it, obviously with opera it's different because you're presented with an existing piece of work, but with the first part, did the music come first or did the visual? Because obviously you're dealing with two separate things. What leads what?
Yeah, actually the music came first, and then I sent it to Darren and he sent me a recording and I practiced on that, and then I did the visual stuff after.
But you'll be composing the music for the opera, right?
Yeah.
So you're making the entire...
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But we're going to have a director and a special effects person, so that'll be...
Will the words be so glitched and scrambled that you can't hear the sort of...
The current idea is that we have the protagonist walking down the road and herself it's repeated.
Like the Kylie video.
Exactly.
Sorry, that wasn't meant to be patronising. Was that exactly what you mean?
Yeah. I'm going to put that on the mood board. And then so I don't know whether that will. I'll decide what's more prominent, or if I just leave it as an impression.
Because I found in the video when you had you as a still in that, like it almost emphasised the glitchiness of the violinist, and because you always had like a control there, even though you were it's just because he was moving, and to me it just sort of really emphasised the kind of glitching in that moment when you were in frame just still.
The contrast of it's really striking.
Yeah.
Would you be using, when you got some special effects, would you be using more sort of intense?
Yeah, so this one protagonist will become a chorus.
Right, because that's what, as I was watching, it's incredibly evoking emotionally, the glitchy one, and I love your interpretation with it. You come from a dance background into directing, so I was like, it's almost like choreography how you've done it, and it was really invoking some of it. But there was some that I did feel an emotion, and And I thought, this could be, even with the opera, there was more there, and I felt like we were going to go into her mouth at one point. And I was like, would you be going that extreme with your effects, or you want to keep it more subtle and nuanced?
It's funny you say that because I tried that very shot.
Not pretty. How many pretty? But yeah, like, so as soon as you just said, the Kylie's,
yeah.
I was like, I just could see it, I really loved it. I just could see it being really playful. You could do so much with it.
Yeah, exactly. I hope that they get someone who can.
Yeah.
So I'm very used to hearing music messed about with and, glitched or whatever, or chopped, and it's funny how you think of music, even if it's maybe recorded live in time, as a linear thing that you can chop up. So it's quite interesting putting another almost third dimension of the visuals onto it, and especially with the singing, I found that even more interesting. And it's almost like you are composing. Yeah, no, I think it's
I used to
brilliant.
feel like an electro beat could come into that. So that was like,
We need to talk.
this could be with that. Once he started really glitching with the violin, I was like,
I was waiting for a drop.
I was like, this could be really, it's sort of trippy, drop some acid and go for it.
But composing with editing is a really beautiful idea, I think.
Can I ask you a couple of things? Yeah, that was fabulous. Thank you so much. I'm kind of, you've been on really well, so I've been on the phone to you while you've been creating a lot of this, and kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know when you're doing the experiments with creating the video you just showed us, a lot of it was like this glorious experiment. You weren't sure where it would go or what it would become, but you had the concept. But when you're composing the first piece, the linear piece was just so exquisite. And was it a kind of, I'll compose this and then play with it, or did you have the layers of like, we need to be able to layer it or slow or dance with it, or kind of was that all woven in?
No, so the linear, I've done 11 of these videos now, and it's always been the linear thing first. So I think that it naturally comes out in the editing process.
But when you compose that initial linear piece, did you compose it just as a thing in itself, or while you were composing it, did you think, here's a moment where I could do this, here's a moment where I could do that?
No, it was just the music.
You just made a piece of music.
It was so beautiful and just visually stunning for something so simple. And the bit with, I just agree with everyone with your stillness in the front. And by the way, really great with you sitting there and you standing there and then back there. That bit's excellent. I think you should sit on the stage and work. And kind of about the this libretto was brilliant. I'd like to talk about the in a second, but I actually think from an opera perspective, I hate going to English operas because you're kind of just just want to listen to the music and not hear here I am. So I kind of like the idea of the words being scrambled and you falling into the emotion and the story and everything else it brings. I think that would just be incredible. I know this was a commission, and I was just curious how much of what was the brief versus your story and personality you brought to kind of
it was basically someone who'd seen the glitches then asked me to do that role, basically. And I'm really glad you said that because that's been my biggest fear, and I guess that's also the opera world. There's a big tradition there. Is can I actually make this dramatic, even though there's no linear text? And the impression I'm getting is which is really good.
I think
Sorry, go on.
I think it'd be a shame if those words didn't exist with it, whoever was doing it, because it's beautiful and brave and bold. Or somewhere, because it's a really powerful concept. But from what kind of I've seen of what you do with it, it's beautiful and really, really good.
And I was just going to say, on the accessibility front, I think it's really interesting that you said about the traditional opera stuff. I actually think between the visual technology of it and the kind of fascinating stuff that you're doing with music, and if anything, it might bring a different audience to it. I don't think there should be any fear about alienating a traditional audience, because I think it will find a new demographic.
Oh, that's great. And actually, that's one of the goals of the company. So I'll pass that on to you.
Okay, is everybody happy to move on? Does anyone have anything else? No, thank you so much, Kel.
Thank you.